Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to my patch 8.9 mid lane SoloQ tier list. It's been a couple of patches since I've needed to update this tier list, but on 8.9, we've seen some significant changes to the mid lane, so I'm definitely going to address them today. Kicking it off, as always, guys, make sure you take note of the color scheme on the left there for mechanical difficulty. Red for difficult champions, things like Cassiopeia, LeBlanc, Azir. This is 50 plus games to actually start putting work on these champions, so I definitely recommend if you pick one of these champions, you're going to have to invest a lot of times into normal games. Blue for moderate champions such as Ari, Sandra perhaps, 25 or so games. And then you've got green for simple champions, things like Annie, things like the Karma, probably 10 to 15 games, and then you can start busting it out in ranked and seeing results. Alright, so as always, we're going to go top to bottom, starting off with the S tier mid laners. First off, we got Twisted Fate. Now, Twisted Fate saw small nerfs, specifically because of the unsealed spellbook being pretty bad right now on a lot of the mid laners who used to run it. I definitely think Twisted Fate is still S tier, but not quite as good as he was on previous patches, and he's just progressively becoming worse and worse as the patches go on, which is why I personally have been leaning more towards a couple of other champions on this patch to climb with. Moving across now is to Fizz. I think Fizz is extremely strong right now. His itemization works perfectly for his kit. It's extremely efficient. He's not too reliant on mana, and specifically in SoloQ, where right now it's pretty much push, get level 6, roam bot, go for a dive. Fizz is the perfect champion for that. Also Talon as well, guys. I think Talon is the best AD assassin right now, perhaps even assassin in general. Talon right now is popping off. Make sure if you can play this champion, or if you have a lot of AP in your team comp, round it off with a Talon, guys. Shove. You see a lot of players get the tier mat, and they'll just continuously shove into these players, into these champions who don't have as much wave clear anymore, and he'll just go straight bot, go straight top, make use of his E, and just snowball the game completely. Next up is Zoe. I think Zoe's been under the radar for a couple of patches now, but really right now, she is doing work in SoloQ. I've personally been running Electrocute, been running Airy, specific to the matchups with Ignite, and just looking for early solo kills, and then just going to scale up into my level 11 and to 16, where my ultimate's on such a small cooldown where I'm just QQing and getting so much poke off. Next up is Vladimir. He probably benefited from the itemization changes the most. He's got Shurelya's, which is insane synergy with his kit. And he's also got things like the Proto Belt still, and it really is, he has no mana in his kit. He has really nice steady spikes in SoloQ. And then of course, as you hit level 11 and 16, I mean, Vladimir getting a flank behind is insane. Make note, a lot of people are running Predator on the Vladimir right now, mainly because the Unsealed is pretty dog shit, I'm not gonna lie. Moving across is Aurelion Sol, the best and highest win rate mid right now. I definitely recommend picking up Aurelion Sol if you can main it. Aurelion also benefited a lot from the itemization changes. A lot of mids and mages are kind of slacking. They need around about 1300 now for the Lost Chapter. Aurelion gets the Catalyst, he shoves. Also, second item is a Rylai's, which also saw buffs. Aurelion Sol is insane right now, guys. You've also got item synergy such as Banner of Command on Aurelion. A lot of people are probably thinking like, what the fuck, Banner of Command Aurelion? But no, it's really good into comps that maybe have a Vladimir or a Rumble or a Swain top lane who really struggle to shove in the Banner of Command. So I definitely recommend picking up Aurelion if you can. It's a bit of a tricky champion, probably 50 to 100 games, but I mean, right now he's just paying dividends in SoloQ. Moving across now is to the new old LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is perfect for SoloQ as always. Snowballs really well, high mobility. And as you scale up, you're going to be getting those burst combos onto these squishy supports and squishy AD carries. I definitely think also it kind of has like a pseudo buff where people don't really understand the damage and the combos right now, so you can cheese out a lot of picks. Now lastly, rounding off my S tier mid laners, we've got Cassiopeia. I think Cassiopeia is only just hanging in there in the S tier. If we see one more nerf to her build path or her kit specifically, she's definitely going to be moving down in the A tier. But right now, the Rylai's buff, the introduction of Shurelya's, which she can build 100%, I think she's definitely still up there as one of the best 1v9 carries. Now moving down to my A tier mid laners, there's a couple of champions I want to touch on. The first is Karthus. I think Karthus is really good right now. The Presence of Mind introduction with the ultimate, when you execute somebody, you get, I think, 10% of the cooldown reduced on your ult. Itemization is really good for him right now, so I recommend if you have mained Karthus in the past, maybe give him a go. Maybe you can pick him up in a couple of games and get some good win rates. Now moving across to Thalia, one of my favorites. I've had to move it down to A for the first time this season. She's just continuously got nerfs. specifically in her itemization. She just really struggles right now. Presence of Mind was removed. The more pricey build pass tier being nerfed, so you've kind of got to go Ludens. I just really don't like Thalia right now in the current meta. I think there's better champions. She really struggles to carry. But in saying that, she's still A tier. You can still play her, but just know the champions such as Aurelion and Twisted Fate are just doing a much better job at the roaming role. Another champion that saw buffs was the Syndra, 15% extra damage on the Q. She's a very strong champion into squishy comps, but you've got to be careful when picking her. She's definitely not she's not S tier, definitely not. She struggles still in these really high health and shield comps with the Janna, the Lulus, even Zillion peering quite a lot. So you've got to be careful when you pick the Syndra, but when picked in the right comp, she can actually pop off and hard carry. Another champion I want to talk about is Yasuo. With the introduction of Conqueror, bone plating being the way it is, I mean, Yasuo is probably at God tier. If you've got 500 plus games, I cannot put him in the S tier. If you've got 500 plus games and have absolutely mastered this champion, he is S tier, guys. He's very, very good. If you see your comp have something like the Ornn, Alistar, Braum, there's a lot of knock-up champions right now that you can synergize well. Zac, Yasuo is really good, but it's SoloQ. You've got to be careful when picking him. You've got to make sure you're having consistency with him, which comes from lots and lots of practice. So, I mean, if you want to put the time and effort in, pick up Yasuo. I just kind of want to be careful in saying that, you know, if you go ahead and play him 10 times and go and try him out in SoloQ, you're going to int. You're not going to get a good win rate. You need to put the time in on this champion. The two final champions I want to touch on for my A tier mids is Kassadin and Anivia. I think Kassadin is pretty good as a counter pick right now. He saw buffs to his Q, increased by about 20 or 30 base damage at level 1 and level 2 on the Q. But also Kassadin, he's so slow scaling, guys. A lot of players like to go the Roa into the Archangel. A lot of the SoloQ games are over before you even get a chance to carry. So you got to be careful when picking him. But I do recommend picking him into things like the Zoe, LeBlanc, even Aurelion Sol. He's a very good counter champion. But just know if your team is all late game carries, probably don't go with the Kassadin in that game. Next up is Anivia. I think Anivia has been very strong for a while now. Her wave clear is absurdly good, but the only problem I think that makes her A tier right now is kind of the nerfs. She's Seraph's Embrace has seen continuous nerfs. Itemization changes have not really benefited her as of late. So I think that Anivia is a very good champion if you can play it, but she's not as good as she once was. Moving down to my B tier mid laners, guys. These mids are pretty good, but they're just not doing the job that the A and the S tier mids. I think things like the Veigar, Morg, and Annie, even the Sion right now is not too bad. You can get good results, but I mean, these champions just don't really offer as much as the A and the S tier. You've also got Victor, who I thought might be viable right now, but he's honestly just not as good as he needs to be. He maybe needs to see either buffs again or just something that helps him out. Maybe a keystone that helps him more so. I'm not too sure what we can do to get Victor up into the A and S, but he's definitely not there right now. You've also got who else we've got? We've got Lissandra, who I think is actually pretty good right now. Lissandra's really nice to play. I think she rounds off a nice AoE team comp, but she lacks a lot of damage, and some of the matchups that she does play into, she struggles a lot. Just touching on Ahri, guys, in the B tier, ever since her rework or her change, she's either the same or worse. She's definitely not better. I've tried her out a lot. I really wish she was a good mid, but she really does still struggle. The removal of the mobility through the Q has not helped her at all in solo Q, which is why she was so good, in my opinion, in the past. And then you've also got a champion, Azir. I think Azir is just struggling right now in solo Q, guys. You need so many games, and it just doesn't really give that many good results. It's more of a competitive champion. I think if you're going to be maining it for solo queue, maybe drop it and pick up another control mage. Now, finally moving down to my C tier mids, the rejects. I don't recommend picking up these champions right now, guys. I mean, you can play them, and maybe if you put a lot of games in, you can get good win rates. But in general, if you're looking to pick up a new mid, go for the S or A tier. Champions such as Galio, Corki, they're just really struggling right now, and they're not doing what they used to do. What else? Jason, Akali, they're better top laners, guys. These champions benefit from long lanes. They benefit from doing really long all-ins. They need space to work with, and mid lane is just not quite it. Champions such as the Diana. I really wish Diana could pick up off the ground, but she's just really not that great right now. She's really struggling into a lot of these champions in solo queue, where it's not really specifically the matchup. It's more, the support champions, maybe the Jannas, maybe the Lulus. There's a lot of CC in the front line as well, which really she does struggle with. So that's it for my mid lane solo queue tier list, guys. Take it how you will. I mean, if you want to one trick any champion in the game, if you put enough time in, you can probably see results. But in my opinion, this is a pretty accurate tier list. And if you're looking to pick up new champions or move around your champion pool, I definitely think to look at this tier list before doing so. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you later.